All these programs, though, while I think they can save you massive amount of time, still require human touch. And so, that's what I kind of preach to clients is, hey, we're going to automate your show, but you need to mix the power of AI, automation, and human power to really bring it all together.
Welcome back to Oh My Pod. My name is Justin J. Moore, and I'm one of your hosts, along with my fiancée, Celine Albertini, soon to be Celine Moore, wink wink. On this episode, we interviewed Mark Savant, the founder of the podcast production agency Mark Savant Media. Mark specializes in helping thought leaders launch and automate podcasts. He hosts the globally ranked top 1% podcast After Hours Entrepreneur, which highlights industry disruption such as AI, automation, and independent media. He also leads dozens of entrepreneurs in his mastermind community. So Mark's podcast, After Hours Entrepreneur, is super successful. He's got like over 350 episodes at the point of recording this, and he's had guests on that are ridiculous. Like I'm talking like Eric Sue, Neil Patel from Marketing School and all their other business ventures, Patrick Bet-David, John Lee Dumas, Pat Flynn, really, really big industry giants. So we really dug into how he got those guests on this episode. He talks about how he used the theory of going where the attention is underpriced and how he actually used Threads right at the start of Threads where there wasn't as much engagement as there was on like Instagram and stuff. And so how he was able to get the attention of these people and bring them on his show. This was really cool. There's a lot of seriously practical and actionable advice in here if you're trying to build a show the way that Mark has. I think you're really going to enjoy this. If you find something valuable here, all we ask is that you share it with a friend. Don't keep it to yourself. If you found something valuable, then somebody else probably will too. So we're just trying to build a community here, help as many people as possible. Thanks so much. Enjoy. Mark, welcome to the show. I'm really excited that you're here.
What's up? Glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, seriously, this is super, super cool. You're doing some really, really cool things. Your podcast is epic. You're like a veteran there, and you've had some crazy guests whose podcasts I've listened to for ages, who I've been a big fan of for a long time. I can't wait to get into that. So yeah, I appreciate that I appreciate when people who are super successful at what they do take the time to come onto maybe a smaller show like this to deliver some value and talk about what you do and talk to us. So thank you for that. Seriously.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. You're welcome, Celine. Glad to be here.
Yeah, totally. I like to ask a question at the start because Celine and I love traveling. Celine is from Italy, and I am from Western Canada. And so we end up having to travel a lot back and forth.
Yep.
Like not a quick trip. But,
yeah, kind of like half around the world every time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we have to do it all the time. And that's great. So we like to ask people, where is your favorite place that you've ever traveled to and why do you like it so much?
Gosh, I've had the honor of traveling to a lot of different places. Colorado holds a place in my heart. I love Colorado. I love snowboarding. Perhaps one of my favorite places that I visited was Poland, though. My wife is 100% Polish. She has a lot of family there. So getting a chance to go and see the culture and see her family is really cool. It's not necessarily the funnest place to go.
Yeah.
But happy wife, happy life. So
yeah, that's cool. My great grandpa was Polish, lived in Poland until the Second World War. So have some family ties there as well. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the downsides though is the liquor. I don't drink anymore. But when the last time we were there, we were visiting one of her family friends who has this farm out in the middle of the Polish farmland. And he created his own potato liquor, and we were drinking. I had the worst hangover the next day. But what was convenient is that the restroom was very, very small, like very small. It's kind of like an airport or an airplane restroom.
Yeah.
And so, you didn't have to go far to clear out your system. We'll just say that.
Perfect. Potato liquor. That is the weird. Like, can people just make liquor out of anything?
Yes. I'm going to answer that. Yes. We have liquor also for a ton of different things. Yes. You can make liquor out of everything.
Well, that's, I've learned something already.
Buyer beware, though, because it was intense. It was an intense experience.
Oh my God, I bet.
That's super funny. That's hilarious. Yeah. I would like to go to Poland one day, I think. But have you ever been to Italy before, Mark?
I have been to Italy. Italy is amazing. That might be on my top list too.
Okay.
One of the things I thought was kind of funny though is this is back before cell phones were a thing.
Okay.
So we had this map. I bought this guide map. We were traveling around the city and we were at the Pantheon and we're like, let's have lunch in front of the Pantheon, this old historical monument. It's been there for, centuries. And we're eating lunch outside there, and right across the Pantheon is a Starbucks and a McDonald's. We're like, this is weird. This is kind of weird that McDonald's is taking over here.
You hit the nail on the head with that. We were also sitting in front of the Pantheon eating lunch, and my thought about Rome in general was that it is very, very like touristy and like not Americanized, but I mean, like, we had a waitress at one of the first restaurants that we went to who didn't speak Italian. It's like, what?
Yeah,
like,
I was like,
but I thought we were in Italy.
I felt sick after that. Like, I felt really sick after that. McDonald's opened in Italy when I was little. I still remember the first McDonald's opening. That was like a big deal, but it's to this day we have Burger King, I guess, but those are the only two fast foods that we had until 2 years ago when KFC opened as well. But like, we don't have a lot of fast food at all. I think that those are the only three things we really have. And Starbucks opened and failed completely. They had to close like 80% of their stores 1 or 2 years ago.
Because the coffee's better everywhere else.
and like, it's just
cheaper.
Prices of Starbucks are just not at level with the ones in Italy 100%. For coffee, because coffee is really 100%. Cheap in Italy. So that didn't work.
But to talk podcasting stuff, this is funny because this is just how the last interview went too. We can totally like talk about traveling and stuff. I love it. But we are here to talk shop, talk podcasting, talk marketing, business. You've got an epic show, but you also have a really cool story about how you got into podcasting, and I think it's one that happens to a lot of people when they start somewhere and realize that that's maybe not where they want to be, and then there's a huge shift that happens, and then they end up somewhere where they clearly love what they're doing. You clearly love what you're doing. You're building something huge. But just briefly tell us about how you went from where you were to what you're up to now.
Sure. So my story in 60 seconds, I was working in an insurance agency, got into that right after I graduated from college. 5 years, I was making great money. 5 years in, though, I was like, this sucks. I hate this. I hate getting yelled at because a claim's denied or the premiums went up or the deductible's too high or whatever reason people complain about insurance, which there's many reasons. And I said, I got to do something different. So I started exploring all sorts of different business opportunities. The side note, I should also mention that I saw where the industry was going. More and more policies were being written online and being serviced online. I said, well, where does that put me? I don't want to just be another cog in the wheel. I want to do my own thing. Started looking at tons of different businesses. Eventually, I recognized that I'm listening to podcasts every day to learn. Why not start my own? And within a month of starting my podcast, I had spoken to a Super Bowl champion and people I'd seen on TV. I was like, this is dope. I'm in. And now we're 5 years later. I host the After Hours Entrepreneur, which is ranked in the top 1% globally. I've had some of the best entrepreneurs in the world on the show. And I'm just really excited about the opportunities that podcasting provides.
Yeah. You have had some of the coolest guests ever on the show.
Was there a particular episode that you really liked?
Oh, man. Like, Eric Sue and Neil Patel, like, when I was really digging, like, because I'm 23, so I was in business school when I was like 18 and 19, and kind of same thing as you. I just felt like a cog in a bigger wheel, and I'm just not so big on that. So I dropped out of school to do business myself, and actually I dropped out of school to do music, but it was like a music business kind of crossover thing that I was doing. But Marketing School by Neil Patel and Eric Sue. For anybody who doesn't know, it's like a daily podcast where it's like 5 or 6 minute episodes every day. That show really helped me like a lot. And like you, I was doing most of my education through podcasting. And so I kind of went the other way because I had the skill of already producing in the music world, and podcasting was sort of an easy shift. And so producing shows ended up being where I was at, but then we ended up starting this show as well. So now we're also podcasting, and yeah, I love it. Like, I really love podcasting.
It's definitely awesome. I'll give you the framework on how I actually landed them is guests. Like, in addition to them, I've had Evan Carmichael, Pat Flynn, David Altucher, Jordan Harbinger, right? John Lee Dumas 3 times now.
3
David
times.
Meltzer 3 times. Yeah. So I've had a lot of awesome guests, but I'll give you the framework really to that I use to land Eric Sue and Neil Patel, because I agree. I've been watching Neil Patel for a while. He's got one of the largest marketing companies in the world. He's got 700 employees.
It's
when
ridiculous.
I talked to him, he was in like New York, but the previous week he was in Dubai and then India. He's all over the place. So this is the key. You got to get on their radar, right? We have to get on their radar. And unfortunately, it's difficult to do that when these companies and these individuals are so big. And one of the ways that you can do that is by going to where the underpriced attention is, Gary Vee style. Where's the underpriced attention? So for them specifically, I connected through Instagram Threads. Instagram Threads, when it first launched, was blowing up. And so what I did is I followed all the people that I wanted to have on my show, and I unfollowed or muted anyone that was outside that genre. I only wanted to see posts from these people. And whenever they would post, I would leave a detailed remark immediately, as quickly as possible. And eventually, as I was talking to Eric, I said, Eric, this is probably 6 to 10 posts in after I had been replying to his posts. And I said, I'd love to have you on my podcast to talk about this topic. By this time, he recognizes my face because I keep commenting. And because I'm competing only against a dozen people who are leaving comments, as opposed to his Instagram where he's getting a couple hundred comments, I was able to stand out. It's new, it's hip, there's a lot of attention there. And I was able to land a podcast with him. And then after the podcast, it went great. It was lovely. It was beautiful. We were talking about AI and marketing and a lot of cool topics. I said, "Hey, what's up? What about Neil? I'd love to have Neil on the show too." He said,
"That's how you do it, man."
He responds to email. Just shoot him an email, and I did, and I scheduled him the next week. So huge win. Those podcast episodes are two of my favorites.
So to like boil it down, I like that quote that you said. Go to where the attention is underpriced, and for you, it was Threads. You saw an opportunity. And then you played the long game. You did a lot of giving before you asked for anything back. And obviously, anybody getting feedback on their content is like you're providing value to them by engaging with their content like that. And then you ask, but then you did something which we also did to get the guests that we got as well, which is once you've got one guy in the door and sitting inside your little podcast circle, he can just ask Eric as a friend, you know what I mean? Or you ended up getting his email, but what we did is like, we just got the one guy to ask the other guy as a friend, like, hey, like, here's a show I was just on. I think you'd like it. And that's just such an easy in, because to get a recommendation like that is like, you're going to have a great chance of getting that person on the show. And so, yeah, so you're going where the attention is underpriced, and then you're asking for a guest, kind of like a referral almost.
Exactly. And, before that, I landed some huge guests like Sean Cannell, Pat Flynn, Jasmine Starr, David Meltzer. This was a few years ago during COVID. I was hosting rooms in Clubhouse, which is where the underpriced attention was.
Clubhouse.
So as these people got invited in, this is how I got JLD, John Lee Dumas. As they join into my Clubhouse rooms that I'm in, I get a chance to talk with them. I said, hey, why don't we keep this conversation going on my podcast? And boom, developed a relationship. They could hear that I was serious, that I was doing good things, I was connected, and the rest is history.
So did you, like, when you were approaching a big guest like that, what kind of words are you saying, or what kind of, how are you showing them that you're serious? Is it just your energy, or do you have a framework that you use to transition the conversation into, can you come onto my podcast so that we can talk about blank, or how do you do that?
Well, so, I mean, marketing 101, sales 101, which I've considered a sale, you're trying to sell them on joining on your show, is we want to try to look at what that person wants. Typically, what these people want is they want to feel important and or reach new audiences. The other thing I think that's really important is you need to make sure that you have a professional looking digital presence. The first thing they're going to do when they see this is they're going to go to your YouTube, they're going to go to your Instagram, they're going to go to your Facebook. And if you're never posting, or if you're posting and you get one like, that I don't know what to say. That's a problem. It's going to be harder to land the big guest.
100%.
If you don't have those things, there's other things that you can lean on, right? Maybe you have a big email list, or maybe you have a history, or maybe you can say, these are other guests that have agreed to join the show. And so leveraging the tools and the expertise that you have, wherever that is, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I like that. Play your strengths 100%. Yeah. I've been like a lot of times, this is sort of a sidebar, but when I'm talking to people who might not usually answer DMs from just anybody or something like that, then I'll even reach out on my personal Instagram, which has a bunch more followers, and that way, like it's kind of a bit like something that I'm not too like fond of in the industry. Maybe it's like a little bit superficial, but just because I have like the blue check mark, or like you have the blue check mark, then people are like more likely to even answer. But a lot of the guests that I've gotten on the show has just been through DMing on Instagram and kind of starting the conversation there. And but I agree. You just like you said, like you gotta tell them how they're gonna benefit from being on the show. And a lot of people just want an opportunity to talk about what they do, talk about their life story. So yeah, I completely agree with that. And then the next thing that I wanted to ask you, which is sort of more about your show, which you've gotten like, you got hundreds of episodes. You've got, I think it was like 700K views on YouTube. You got 150 plus reviews. So what were like, was it just that you were consistent and you got big guests and they shared it, or what were the biggest pieces that moved the dial for you to create such an awesome show?
Well, consistency and just always trying to be better. Like I'll look back on my shows from a year ago. I'm like, wow, I was terrible. I was so, and that's not because I'm very critical on myself, but I'm just always looking to get better. How can I improve my mic? Even now, people say, Mark, you sound so good. I'm like, yeah, but my S's, how can I reduce that? And maybe I can put some more soundboards up. So there needs to be a constant pursuit of being better, I think. Yeah. Which I also think comes with enjoying the craft. But listen, we got to talk about the iTunes reviews for a minute here, because people are sleeping on iTunes reviews. What are y'all doing?
No way.
People always ask me, Mark, how do you grow a show? And I say, you need more iTunes reviews. You've got 2 reviews. You're not credible. And it's like I don't know I feel like I have to shake people because they don't listen to this. I'll give you something that's super practical, super simple, that every single person should be doing. In your calendar link, I don't care what the calendar link is for. It could be meet me for coffee or book to be on my podcast. You should have a request for people to leave a 5-star review on iTunes with the link. This should be on every calendar request that you send out.
Okay, we will do that right now.
Literally, write a note.
Because we don't have that.
Yeah, take some notes, Celine, seriously.
It's the low-hanging fruit. By doing this alone, if you're booking calendar appointments, you're going to get, we'll call it 2 to 4 iTunes reviews per month, maybe more. And you don't even have to ask for it. It's right there. It's right. I just want to see more people doing this. It's so simple.
You're right though about the credibility thing. Like it's something that it's something that when I see a show that's got like 80 plus or even 50 plus reviews, immediately it's like something that you can't really lie about. Like it just shows professionalism, and so it is like it's sort of when you know that a show has made it to like the next level, like it's a legitimate production at that point. And if you're trying to get guests on your show, like big guests like you're talking about, yeah, that would move the dial 100%. Seeing that you have 100 reviews plus, for sure.
Yeah, and people will say, and I'm with, we talked about in the pre-show things that I believed before that I don't believe now, but I was always this guy was like, screw vanity metrics. Vanity metrics just hurt your mental state. The reality is they really, psychologically, they're important. The vanity metrics are important. Likes matter. Comments matter.
Yes.
Reviews matter.
Yeah, if you have a business online, or if you're a person in the public, then of course it matters. Like telling you it doesn't is just a lie.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
I have a friend who does Amazon sales. That's what he does. And when you're launching a product on Amazon Fulfillment by Amazon, the first thing you do is give away as much stuff as for free in return for reviews.
Really? Hey,
yeah, I've seen
cool.
I actually randomly on TikTok, it popped up how to do that, and I liked it. So I was watching a few, and I know this, and they do this. Like, obviously, you don't buy stuff from Amazon without a review. Would you ever? I would never. I always think it's a scam. So you need those reviews, and people will do it. They just give you free stuff. Just leave a review.
100%.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The reviews matter. So, when you're looking at getting on better guests, growing your podcast, attracting new listeners, finding ways to engage your audience and build up these quote unquote vanity metrics, it's an important piece.
That's good advice. And I mean,
yeah,
like it's like you said, I haven't really heard it called that, but vanity metrics, I'm gonna use that because you're right in that it feels wrong, especially when you're starting, for that to be something that you pay attention to, because it is literally the definition of superficial, but it does provide people with information about you and about what you do. And like I said, with my account that gets way more replies to DMs because of a follower count and a little blue mark, which people can pay for, by the way, now. So it's not even like an actual verification metric anymore, exactly. Which I think is so stupid, but let's not get into that. But anyways, so I totally agree with what you're saying. And so would you say that the guests that you've had on, have they been sharing the content, and has this brought a marked increase in downloads on specific episodes? Like, is that where you're getting the bulk of the growth from?
That is definitely a big piece of it. And I'll give you a couple examples. I had Jasmine Starr on the show. This is a few years ago. It's about 3 years ago when the show was in its infancy, and I was able to land her because we got to engage in Clubhouse. That's where the underpriced attention was. I was able to get on her radar, and she agreed to it.
Right.
She comes on the show, and she enjoyed the episode so much that she said, "Hey, Mark, I'd like to share this on my podcast also." So her and her team repurposed it for her podcast. The very day that it went live, I saw a huge spike in downloads, and I got a bunch of DMs with the quote unquote code word for that episode, which I think was Clubhouse, if I'm not mistaken, just so I knew where the traffic was coming from. The same exact thing happened a few weeks ago. I had James Altucher on the show, who's an award-winning author. He's written 25 books, most of which were on the New York Times bestseller list, and his podcast gets 3 million downloads a month. Same thing. Enjoyed the episode, requested the download, requested we send him the raw files and shared it. So this is another hack. When you have someone on your show that's delivering great value, ask them if they'd like the raw content to share on their podcast. It's just an easy way to get more downloads, which, by the way, we could talk about that after this episode's over.
Yeah, that is epic, man. Like okay, just a question about the actual logistics. So do you have like the full raw audio? And then does the other person who grabs the podcast, like who takes the audio afterwards, do they then, like you're saying, repurpose? So do they re-edit it, or can you just send them the fully produced audio that, let's say, our team does, and they just repost it? Or would you want to switch it up a little bit? Like, how does that actually work?
Either or is fine. Like when I was working with Neil Patel, he asked me to send him the raw stuff, and then he and his team created some like really, really dope clips for Instagram. So, other people that you have on your show might not have the production team behind them, the post-production team like a Neil has. So it depends. And I think that's something to talk about. I certainly send finished clips and finished graphics to guests, but this is the other problem that people really smart. But here's the problem that a lot of people run into when it goes to getting your guests to share. Your guests are busy. I don't know what to tell you. They're running business. They have kids. They have wives and husbands. Like, they're busy. When you send a guest a huge wall of text with a link to share with across their LinkedIn and their YouTube and their Instagram, they're not going to do it. It's too much. You have to make it as easy as possible. The easiest way as possible is just to let them know that it's live, of course. Really short, link to the episode. But where you're really going to get the shares is when you go into Instagram and you invite them to be a collaborator. Hey, by the way, I just invited you to be a collaborator. All they need to do is press the button.
And it goes right onto their page.
That's it. It's on their grid. It blasts out. Same thing with LinkedIn. Hey, I posted on LinkedIn. All they have to do is hit the button.
Right.
Twitter or X, all I need to do is hit the button. The less steps that they need to do, the greater the likelihood that they're going to share. It's very important.
That is
100%.
Also really, really freaking good advice.
Yeah.
Celine, write that down.
Messaging the VA here right now to invite everybody as a collaborator. Shorten emails. Her emails are sometimes so long. I'm like, no, Shorter.
Yeah, we preach that. We do 100%. I know people's time is incredibly valuable, and okay, this is super, super good. This is really why I like having people who have like big shows like you have onto the show, because there's just advice and insight that like I haven't heard this anywhere else. So first of all, thank you. Audience probably thanks you as well. I want to know, first of all, I just have like a question that I was wondering about. Somebody else might also find this valuable. I saw your podcast website and it's really good. It's just like, it's your website, but it's a one page on your website. How important do you think setting something like that up is for a show, to have, your like recent episodes on there, and then I forget what else you had, but I really liked the pieces, the elements that you had on there. So how important do you think that is for a podcast?
It depends. It depends. I think that if you're able to and you have the bandwidth, it's actually really important, because what you want with a podcast is you want traffic. You want traffic. Do you really want to be sending traffic to Anchor or to Spotify? No, you really want the traffic to go to your website, because at your website, like marksavantmedia.com, for example, you go to the website, not only do you see the podcast, but you're going to see the offers that I have in my business and an invite to my mastermind community. And you have a chance to sign up for my email newsletter. If you're just going to iTunes and listening, there's less opportunity to create awareness. So I think it's incredibly important, if you're able, if you don't have the bandwidth in that, which I get, I've been doing this a long time. If you don't have the bandwidth to create a separate episode post or blog post for every single guest, at the very least, you want to have a single page with an embedded link so people can listen to the podcast. You can have calls to action, but at the very least, you want to have something on your website that's a dedicated page to your podcast. It's just, it's the low-hanging fruit.
Good point about the traffic thing. Why would you want to send traffic to a big, massive giant when you could have it right on your website, right next to a page about what your business does and what your offer is and what you know what I mean? That's really, really smart.
And by the way, traffic attracts traffic. The more traffic that goes to your website, the more likely your website is to be recommended to others. And then you can create backlinks.
Exactly. That's really smart. So I just wanted to know about that, because it's something that some people say yes, some people say it's not as important, because you do have like the RSS feed from the hosting platform, and it shows the episodes and it gives you the links to the different platforms you can go. But why not have it on your site next to all your other stuff? That's that's a good point. So in our pre-show talk, we talked a little bit about that you're interested in AI. Who isn't? It's super, super hot right now. It's changing everything. We already are using a lot of AI tools for our podcast and for our clients, helping to carry some of the responsibilities from producing a show and writing and all that stuff. What kind of AI tools do you use for your podcast, or you're interested in? What's interesting you about AI right now in general?
Wow, AI changes the game. If you're going to stand out in any field, you need to be experimenting and try to find that blue ocean, as it were, something that's different. We use a bunch of different AI programs at my podcast agency. CapCut is really great for video editing. Descript is a really popular option, not just for audio and text, but for video as well. My team seems to love that. There's some pretty cool stuff happening, some pretty cool plugins for Adobe Premiere Pro that my team has been using. We use Swell, CapShow. We use Cast Magic. These are all great tools for copywriting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we used Swell for a second as well. We have a similar program that we use for writing, so we know about that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yep. The writing is cool. I mean, all these programs, though, while I think they can save you a massive amount of time, still require human touch. They were,
100%. Yes.
And so, that's what I kind of preach to clients is, hey, we're going to automate your show, but you need to mix the power of AI, automation, and human power to really bring it all together. Mm-hmm. But there's AI is so tremendous. Even just ChatGPT, for example. If anyone who's launched a podcast before, you realize how hard it is to come up with a great name. It's tough. It's like really difficult. My show, The After Hours Entrepreneur, it took me 3 months to come up with a name before finally releasing it. I could have released it probably 60 days earlier if I could just come up with a better name. But even using a program like ChatGPT to determine names that will save you so much time. The first thing I would look for is like, what are the keywords that we're trying to rank for? Mm-hmm. What are people actually searching for on Google, on YouTube, etc.? And then I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, please leverage the word internet marketing, create some cool titles for my show. And just using ChatGPT as a way of inspiring yourself and kind of thinking through different options, whether it's your intro, your outro, maybe you need to record videos. I just landed a sponsorship deal with a pretty big company. I was using AI to come up with different ideas for what I could talk about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
ChatGPT is a tool that you have to really like learn how to use.
Yes.
Sorry.
And we've just started learning it better, and it's incredible. Yeah. I definitely use it for things like getting names. Like Justin has a natural talent for creative stuff, so he doesn't really need it, but I do. I do need it. And I use it all the time.
Language barrier,
and it's amazing.
Right?
Yeah, of course. My mother tongue is obviously not English, so for me it's more difficult, and certain words just don't live in my brain, like English words, so I really need Chat. Chat's awesome. He saves my life.
The creative work takes so much. There's a massive amount of mental fatigue that goes into creative work.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I think some people take it for granted. And if you can use ChatGPT to like unblock yourself, it can bring up different avenues that you hadn't thought of. Another cool thing with ChatGPT is automations. I use ChatGPT with Zapier to do some really cool things. And I'll give you a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Super cool workflow. I have the entire workflow on my YouTube channel, Mark Savant. But what you can do, this is a cool tactic, is reach out to, let's say, CEOs. Let's say you want to generate relationships with CEOs. Send out a bunch of messages to CEOs. This could be Instagram or LinkedIn. You send out a bunch of messages to CEOs and you say, hey, I'd love to feature you on my website blog. Please do me a favor and fill out this Google form. I'll feature you on the blog and I'll send you a link once it's done with all the backlinks. This will be good for you to get free attention. No cost to them. It'll take them maybe, let's say, 5 minutes to fill out the form. Ask questions like, tell me about yourself, your business, what's important to you, yada, yada. Then that form in Google uses Zapier to send it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will write the entire article for you. It'll write the entire blog article for you. You take that blog article, it'll give you all the information you need too, like the links and their name and whatnot. You take all that custom created written word, you clean it up a little bit, you throw it on your website, or you hire a VA to put on your website.
Exactly.
For $5-6 an hour.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at. And then all of a sudden you've made a connection. You've led with value. You've developed a relationship with that CEO, and you're creating content for your website, and you're getting more SEO and ranking and authority with Google. It's such a simple thing, all because you're just implementing Zapier and ChatGPT. And that's one example. There's a lot of different things you can do when it comes to this automation.
Yeah. I like what you... Yeah, I like what you're doing with your clients, or it sounds like what you're doing with your clients, automating their podcasts. It says that also in your Instagram bio that you help people automate podcasts. So there's so many tools and so many strategies that people can use to make the whole process so much easier. And I do think that something like learning how to use ChatGPT the best way. We actually talked to a guy and his business partner, mm-hmm. Nick Nalbach and Mark Ronick, who have Next Gen Podcaster, and they're all about like AI tools and stuff. And they made an entire ebook about just how to use ChatGPT, like prompts, right? Because it's such a it's so weird if you've used ChatGPT just by typing in things and hoping that you get the best response. With a few little tweaks, you can make ChatGPT from like this little thing to like just a monster tool for everything. Like, yes. You can take your podcast transcript, upload it in there, ask it to create like a carousel post for Instagram with 7 slides about the main topics, or turn it into quote posts about the main topics, or like, obviously you can turn the whole thing into a blog like really easily. Like it's And then I don't know much about Zapier, but I've like people keep bringing it up over and over and over again. So that's another thing that I would love to implement into our own process. We definitely use a lot of AI, and we use VAs as well. We have project manager and assistant from Philippines who are absolutely phenomenal. And so yeah, but I think what you said is really, really valuable in this episode. Like I think everything you said, I learned something new from it, which is huge because like we're deep in this industry. So, and there's things that we don't even know about. And so our clients or the people listening, it's just really valuable. So, thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And I will say that, to me, that's what has made my podcast successful is I cut the BS. On my intake form, on my guest request intake form, I let guests know, hey, I'm not going to agree with everything you say. I'm actually probably going to disagree. I'm going to push back, and I'm going to help you. I had a really big podcaster on my show a few months ago, and he was kind of giving me the fluffy stuff. I was like, dude, I've heard everybody knows this stuff. Like, how do you go to a podcast, bring guests on your show? Like, we get it.
Yeah.
Give me something better. And we were able to he actually shared some secrets, because I want to make sure that if a guest listens to the show, I want to make sure that everybody listens to the show is walking away with stuff that's actionable and different, something they maybe hadn't thought about or heard before, because that's where the growth comes from. That's where you're going to grow your damn business, is when you're learning new stuff, not what worked 5 or 10 years ago, but what's working now and what's going to work in the future. That's where the growth comes from.
Yeah. I love it. And people are going to remember you for providing them with that type of value. And because it's part of your podcast, it's part of your whole kind of personality, and you can really tell, like you get to it, you get straight to it, and you know your stuff. So yeah, I think we're pretty much winding down here. I thank you for spending these 35 minutes with us. It means a lot. And I think I've said that a few times now, but it does mean a lot. Seriously. You get it. You know what it's like when someone comes on your podcast who's bigger than you are and takes the time to help out. So really appreciate that. Where can people find you? Where do you want them to go?
Thanks, Celine. Thanks, Justin. You can find Mark Savant Media wherever you shop for toys. I don't know. Mark Savant Media, wherever you go. And I will be there. And you can, of course, listen to the After Hours Entrepreneur on your favorite podcast platform. Glad to share your ear.
That's where we want you to go. After Hours Entrepreneur, 100%. Podcast is awesome. Seriously, there's also like Patrick Bet David. There's like so many guests on there. I was scrolling through and I was like, this guy's coming on our show. Like, this is sick. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, he was
After
really excited.
Hours Entrepreneur. Yeah, I was. I came into the other room and I was like, like how big Mark's podcast is? So yeah. But all of that will be in the show notes. We'll drop your links down there. And maybe share the raw file with you. Oh, right? That's a tip from the episode.
Smart move.
Smart
move. I like it.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Mark. And any closing remarks or
keep trying new things. Keep trying new things. Keep trying new things. I keep trying new things, people. Keep trying new things.
Keep trying new things 5 times. Perfect way to end. Seriously though, keep trying new things 100%. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Bye.
Okay, so you made it this far, which means you probably found something or learned something valuable from this. So don't be selfish. Please share it with somebody else so that they can learn something from it too. That's all we ask for all this free content. We're trying to build a community and help as many people as possible do better in podcasting, make better podcasts, get more from their podcasts in less time. That's our goal here. And if you want to support that goal, then just click the link and send it to one person who you know would love you for it.